Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the FTA Ireland briefing introducing our new standard, PassengerSafe. My name is Aidan Flynn, CEO of FTA Ireland. So, the agenda for this morning's briefing, I will be followed by my colleague Paul Maguire, who will give a detailed overview of PassengerSafe standard and what to expect in this new annual audit. PassengerSafe will provide more focus for FTAI in supporting our coach and bus members through a standard that is recognised by industry, peers and service supports to make operational compliance deliver to operators' bottom line. The PassengerSafe programme is a planned standard that will provide a driver handbook and annual audit, and promote the highest standards of compliance and professionalism in the coach and bus membership of FTA Ireland. As you may know, we have a suite of standards. FTA Ireland is established over 11 years now, and from the outset, developing accreditation and standards has been a main focus of our membership. We introduced TruckSafe a number of years back, followed by VanSafe, and now we're delighted to introduce PassengerSafe, which is an industry-driven programme designed to raise operational standards and recognise coach and bus fleet operators that demonstrate the highest levels of professionalism and safety. So what are the PassengerSafe objectives? Well, it is the new name for compliant coach and bus fleet operators. It is about recognition and recognising safe and compliant operators. It's an ongoing advice and information service for members on key issues affecting your business. It promotes driving for work initiatives. I think this is really important, considering that the Road Safety Authority's recently published strategy has very much a driving for work focus on it. It develops a robust standard for members that is supported and recognised by the Road Safety Authority, the Health and Safety Authority, insurers and government. So, PassengerSafe provides recognition. It gives peace of mind to owners and managers of businesses. It provides guidance in relation to driving for work through our driver handbooks and other affiliated services. And I think it's really important in identifying how companies operate to manage their fleet of vehicles from a roadworthiness perspective, from a safety perspective, but also from a driver perspective, the training that's provided to drivers, and getting recognition for that is really, really important. And of course, we certify it. It's an annual audit, and you will hear more about this audit now from Paul. So I will hand you over to Paul. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Maguire. I'm just going to talk you through the audit itself and how that is, how that's action and how it comes about. So the PassengerSafe, what is it? Well, it's an industry-driven program, as Aidan said, and it's designed to raise the operational standards and to recognise excellence. The focus of the program itself is going to be on compliance with industry regulations. Now, the scope of the program. So PassengerSafe is open to all coach and bus operators managing vehicles with a carrying capacity in excess of 8 passenger seats plus a driver, regardless of the type or size of your operation. The whole purpose behind the PassengerSafe program is to recognise operators who achieve a set standard in relation to compliance. And it's very, very important that we recognise those compliant organisations. Now, the benefits of PassengerSafe. Well, achievement of the PassengerSafe standard will demonstrate to the enforcement authorities, customers and the general public that you're compliant with the minimum legal and operational standards. It can also lead to improved RSA CVRI ratings, and it will act as confirmation that your company meets the minimum compliance requirements to operate successfully. It can improve the marketability of the business, and you will have recognition amongst industry peers that you have attained this standard. It can improve corporate self-worth, and it will make it easier to attract a better caliber of drivers. So the audit process itself. Well, PassengerSafe is achieved when operators attain the standard based on an annual systems audit. So the audit can be conducted either on-site or remotely via a questionnaire, which will be backed up by evidence that's sent in to us remotely. Now, the audit itself. So operators must demonstrate that they meet the requirements of the PassengerSafe standard. So the systems audit is focused on the operator having the right systems in place to ensure that they are fulfilling their duties and obligations. The auditor will interrogate each section of the audit capture form with the transport manager and expect documented evidence to be supplied to ensure that the system described is in place as is described by the transport manager. So what do we cover? Well, we cover vehicle and equipment maintenance, safe working environment, vehicle standards, driver licensing and competence, road passenger transport operators licensing, the professional competence, customer care, sustainable operations, contractor and agency management, and health and safety. So under vehicle and equipment maintenance, what we're looking at here is your pre-use defect checks first and foremost to make sure that your driver training is in place to ensure that they're trained on how to carry out the defect checks. We're also going to be looking at your reporting procedures as to how you have your chain in place, your processes in place once the driver has found a defect. Then we're going to be looking at your maintenance cycles, and we're going to be looking at maintenance inspection procedures, how you record those, how you action them, and then we're going to be looking at the record keeping to make sure that you're keeping the records in accordance with the regulations. Now, the next section is safe working environment, and this is where we look at your processes and procedures in relation to risk analysis. Have you carried out risk analysis of all the areas of operating in and around the vehicle? We're going to be looking at your passenger and driver protection and speed limiting controls, making sure that speed limiters are fitted and calibrated as required. The next section we're going to cover is vehicle standards. Now, firstly, we're going to be looking at your vehicle appearance. Do you have systems in place to make sure the vehicles are properly cleaned and maintained both inside and outside? Then we're going to be looking at your systems to ensure that your vehicles are taxed appropriately, that your vehicles are insured with all the appropriate insurance, and that you have your annual testing, both CVRT and PSV testing. Next, we're going to be looking at your driver licensing and competence. So this area is very, very important. We're going to be looking at the driver competence itself. How do you record that the drivers have the appropriate licenses? Do you have a fitness to drive program in place? In other words, to make sure that you are correctly making sure that the drivers have the appropriate licensing to drive. With your driver induction, do you carry out a proper driver induction? Do you make sure that they're trained in all the appropriate systems? Do you carry out a driver audit? Do you check regularly that the drivers have the appropriate licenses and that they're still in date and that they have no penalty points? Then we make sure that you have appropriate driver training for their role, particularly in relation to dealing with customers and dealing with those customers with special needs. We have a look and see that you are monitoring your driver CPC to ensure that the drivers at all times have the correct CPC entitlement and that they have their qualifications up to date. Then we look at your driver fatigue management to see that you're planning your drivers' routes and drivers' hours and working time appropriately. And the next section the next part of this section we're going to be looking at is road traffic rules, to see if you have a system in place to record any area where your driver may have come in contact with enforcement authorities. So penalty points, speeding offences, accidents or incidents. The next part is very, very straightforward, the road passenger transport operator licensing. In this part, we're really just going to look to see that you have the appropriate road passenger licensing in place. The next area we're going to focus on is your professional competence. And this area we're going to focus on your transport manager. We're going to be looking to see if you employ either an internal or an external transport manager. We're going to have a look at their competence. We're going to have a look at their qualifications. And if it's an external transport manager, that you have the appropriate contracts in place to outline what their roles and responsibilities are. Under the customer care heading, we're going to be looking at driver training. As we mentioned, we want to make sure that the drivers have the appropriate training to deal with passengers of all natures. We are going to be looking at the vehicles themselves, make sure the passenger restraints are in place. We're going to have a look at your processes for customer complaints. Do you have a customer complaint system in place? And are drivers trained in this? We're going to be looking at the vehicle, driver, and passenger security arrangements. And we're going to be looking at your accident, incident, or breakdown procedures, and to make sure that not only that they're in place, but that the drivers understand what their roles are within this. The next area we're going to be focusing on is sustainable operations. And what we're going to be looking to see is that you have an environmental or carbon reduction policy focused on not only your vehicle fleet, but your whole operation. And what we're going to be looking at is your fuel systems. This is where we want to see that you have appropriate methods of managing your fuel. Have you got a fuel manager put in place? Are you recording your fuel? And are you looking at processes, or have you got processes in place to help reduce your fuel usage? The next area is very, very topical. It's contractor and agency management. So what we're looking at in this case is if you are contracting in outside transport operators to augment your own services, are you doing your due diligence on these transport operators? Are you checking that they have the appropriate transport operators licenses? Have they got the appropriate contracts in place? Have they got the appropriate insurance and tax for their vehicles? When we're looking at the use of agency supplied drivers, and when we're looking at the agencies, we need to make sure that these agencies are actually doing the appropriate checks on the drivers, like we would do on our own drivers. Are they checking their drivers' licenses? Are they checking that the drivers have the appropriate qualifications? And are they checking that the drivers have the up-to-date CPCs in place? The next section we're going to have a look at is health and safety. So what we want to see here is that you have safety statements in place, that you've carried out risk assessments and they are documented. And in communication, what we're looking for is that you're actually communicating the health and safety to your drivers and other employees. So we want to make sure that the drivers understand their requirements under health and safety and that they have been briefed on it. Section now we have to come to is COVID-19, again, very, very topical. And this is for operations with over 5 employees. So what we're looking to see here is that you have appropriate training for the drivers and that you've carried out induction training for COVID-19 and that you have appropriate systems for mitigation in place. So again, social distancing, wearing of masks, and all of those other appropriate systems that are required under the legislation. When we're looking at evidence, and we want to, when we come to your site to have a look at the evidence, or if we come to your, or if you're going to supply evidence remotely, the type of documentation that we will be looking for as part of the audit will be your driver training matrix or a spreadsheet outlining the driver training that's been carried out, a driver induction pack, your walk around check sheet that you're using, copies of your tachograph calibration certificate. And we use a simple rule of 3. So we generally check them for 3 or more vehicles. We're looking for a copy of your fleet service or maintenance plan, evidence of how the vehicle's tax is tracked, the working time records for 3 drivers, and dating back for 3 years. So you have a requirement to hold on to working time records for 3 years. Copies of maintenance records for a sample of 3 vehicles, showing that the records are being held for at least 2 years. Then we're going to be looking for a screenshot of your RSA self-declaration. And what we want to see here is your OP number and your expiry date. We'll also be looking for a copy of the driver license and driver CPC expiry spreadsheet to see that you're keeping track of these. We're looking to see a copy of your fleet insurance policy, and we're going to look for your insurance policy number and your expiry date. Then we'll have a look to see that you have an incident or accident register to ensure that you're keeping track of any accidents, incidents, or near misses. We're also going to have a look at your risk assessments to see that you have risk assessments carried out on any operations in and around the vehicle. We're going to have a look that you have a safety statement in place. We're going to have a look at your environmental policy. We're going to have a look to see if you have a driver's handbook in place. And for the transport manager, we're going to have a look to see his qualification certificate. We're also going to have a look at the copy of your road passenger license, if that's applicable to the company, copy the PSV licenses, and if you have subcontractors, we're going to have a look at service level agreements to see if they're in place. So after the audit, so successful organizations will receive a welcome pack, including certificate of the standard, sample vehicle stickers, a sample FTA driver's handbook, press support, and branding guidelines. And they'll also be listed on the PassengerSafe website as a PassengerSafe operator. Now, if an operator is unsuccessful, so unsuccessful organizations will be given the opportunity to seek a re-audit of the non-compliant elements within 90 days of the original audit. The FTA will provide feedback on the areas of unsatisfactory evidence or compliance and offer advice on how the required standards can be achieved. So we're going to stop sharing there, and I see there's some questions coming in. Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks very much, Paul. That's a very interesting presentation, and I hope everybody has found it of interest. I think just to confirm to everybody that this presentation, the recording of the presentation link will be sent to members, as well as the slides as well. And I think what we've done here is provide a good taster and a teaser of this new and exclusive membership offering for coach and bus operators. And as I mentioned earlier, PassengerSafe is the new name for compliant operators. It's there to support our members through their and support business development through recognition of being compliant and differentiating your business against others. There's much more onus and responsibility now, I think, in terms of transport managers and owners and day-to-day operational piece of the business. And I think PassengerSafe is there to assist and support companies to do the right thing, and to have that peace of mind, as I mentioned earlier, that they are actually doing the right thing, because there's a lot more regulations, there's more information coming all the time around what needs to be done to be compliant with working time, or indeed through the Commercial Vehicle Roadworthiness Act. For any more information on this, and we will be providing information on this as we roll it out, please contact our office on info@ftai.ie or phone 018447516. And as I said, we will be providing more information to members on an ongoing basis in relation to this programme, and we look forward to engaging with you all over the coming weeks and months. So I think we'll leave it there. So thanks very much to Paul, and thanks very much to Catherine and Nicola for organising this, and for everybody for attending the session. We look forward to chatting to you soon. Thank you.